Well, I've been riding this bike now for about 5 minutes. Yep, 5 minutes. And I thought it would be really important to capture my first thoughts of actually being on this bike. You know, it's one thing to look at a bike in picture, look at it in person, sit on the bike, but it's not until you really ride the bike that you really start to form an opinion of it, an informed opinion of it. So my first impressions of this bike then, she is so laid back. Yes, this is a very laid back riding position. My very first CBT instructor, she told me that she thought I'd look good on a cruiser, and little did she know at the time that I was actually a sports bike guy. But this is a cruiser, and this is my first time on a cruiser, and I have to tell you, so laid back is the riding position of this bike. And that's not to say that she doesn't have a bit of poke about her. She really does. So what is the Honda Rebel 500 then? Well, this is a 471cc parallel twin motor putting out 45 horsepower and is a fully A2 compliant motorcycle. So if you are young and you can't quite get your full A category license yet and you're in the market for a cruiser, this is a serious contender.
So what else can I tell you about the Honda Rebel 500 then? Well, I can tell you that I have fallen in love with her already. But apart from that, one thing I want to talk about is this seat height. 690mm seat height. If you are of a smaller stature and you think you can't ride a motorbike, this may very well be the bike for you. Now, I know a couple of people who are 5 foot nothing. In fact, there's a creator on TikTok. She's 5 foot nothing and she rides one of these. On this particular bike, this seat has been changed, as have a couple of other things. In fact, these Rebels are incredibly customizable. And I know you could say that about almost every motorbike, and it's true, but with the Rebel, the possibilities seem to be endless. And on this particular bike, as well as the seat change, we've got things like adjustable brake and clutch levers, frame sliders, and an exhaust change. Now, I'm going to say this. If you're after peace and quiet, stick with the stock exhaust. But if you want to be heard, or if you just want your bike to have a nicer tone, this little short stubby exhaust mod is an absolute must. And yes, the customization options on these bikes really do seem endless. Take the seat, for example. Yes, this one's been changed for a much nicer version, much nicer than the stock seat. But you could get separate seats. You could get a nice little upright seat here. You could do away with the luggage rack there. Maybe even relocate the number plate down the side here in a 1950s style. And that would give you a really nice smooth rear end. You could do away with the pillion seat entirely. In fact, you could do away with everything from here back and just have a little short wheel arch there. I've seen Rebels where someone's given them a custom paint job, chucked on some white walls and just gone full-blown retro with them. Or keep your pillion seat and your luggage rack and chuck on some panniers. I've seen some gorgeous panniers on these bikes. They really are incredibly customizable, even down to little things like these plastic panels here. These ones are smooth, but you can get textured version of these 3 panels here. The instrument cluster is very well laid out. First of all, it's in the middle, which my OCD likes very much. And before we switch it on, quick word about the key. Your steering lock is here, and your ignition is over here. Very well laid out. Fuel gauge on the left, speedo in the middle, time on the right hand side, trip underneath there. Then you've got your oil pressure gauge, your neutral light, your ABS light, and up the top here you've got your indicator and your hazard, which is interesting. Not many bikes have hazard lights, but this one does. Now, I have heard these being referred to as a girl's bike. Do I agree? Not really. What I will say though, if I sit on this bike, I'm flat-footed with my knees completely bent. Now, as I said, it's got quite a low seat height, and typically men are taller than women. So is it possible that more women who are shorter may buy this bike? Absolutely, that's possible, but I still don't think it makes it a girl's bike. I'm 6'2" and a bloke, and I could happily live with this bike. I'll tell you what I think this bike is. Yes, it's 500cc, it's an A2 bike, it's particularly light, you can certainly chuck it about the place, and it isn't big and heavy. Whilst I haven't ridden any other cruisers, you do hear people say that cruisers are typically big, heavy machines, and this is certainly not that. I think this bike is a perfect introduction to a cruiser.